Hello, this is Matthew Feingold. This is my Milestone 2 for Game Engine 2. First thing I wanted to show off is the animation file converter to pull animation data from FBX files. I have this directory here is my actual converter directory, but I've pulled the executable into the batch converter here, into this folder. And I've also placed the files I want to convert into my own files in here. And I made this Python file that just does a couple of these. And what this will do is give me skeleton files and clip files that I can import into my engine and then piece them together. So if I want one skeleton for multiple clips from different FBX files, or however I want to piece it together, it makes it easier, more flexibility on the engine side. So I will go ahead and just run this. We'll see everything kind of print off here, all our hierarchy for the skeleton, and then all of the animation data. The humanoid has a lot more data in it, so it's going to take a longer time, but you can see some files start showing up here. So I have these .clip files that, those are the animation clips, and then the .scale files are the skeleton. So I can just go ahead and grab all of these skeleton and clip files, and I'm going to copy them and throw them into my engine source directory. I already have them in here, but just to prove that this kind of works, I'm going to replace all 10 of them in here. And I'm going to go into my engine now, and in my load content, don't mind all the commented out stuff, but just to kind of show, this is the load content part in my game function, or game class. Set up my camera and all that stuff. Some leftover stuff from my earlier demos, but here we go. So this is how I'm loading in the teddy bear animation. I am using my asset loader class to load in a skeleton, and I give it the file and the bone width, and then I load in the clips that I want with the clip file name using this asset loader. And then I just make a new animation to link them all together. I give it a pointer to the skeleton to associate it. I add the clips to my animation. I set the active clip that I want, and I add it to my animation manager. And then I still have to clean this up a little bit, but what I'm doing here is I'm taking the rigid game object that the skeleton points to, that is kind of the root of the game object anim, the kind of bone game objects. And I'm grabbing the position and I'm just lowering it down a little bit because my scene has a floor, and I kind of just try to align it there, but I can control the whole skeleton's position by changing the position of this rigid object. Again, I'm going to wrap this into a nicer little function, but I just wanted to get this video done. For the humanoid, I grab the skeleton, or I load the skeleton from my asset loader. I make the bones smaller since there's more of them, and I want to be able to really see them distinctly. I grab the rigid game object from it, and the skeleton has some weird data that actually has it rotated, and it's really big and kind of in weird positions. So I scale it down to 0.5, and then also over here, I don't know why I did that here. That's actually a sorry, this is actually left over from an earlier thing. This actually gets kind of overwritten here. So I'm associate this load skeleton here associates the rigid object. Actually, ignore this. The skeleton has a rigid object associated with it, which gets kind of linked together in the loading phase in the load skeleton, and it I can use it here to move it over. I move it over to the right on the x-axis 150 units, so it's not overlapping with the teddy. And then I also move it down a little bit so it's more aligned with the ground. Scale it down pretty small because the the data from the FVX file has it as pretty large. And then I also rotate it by 90 degrees around the x-axis because the animation data that gets read in is actually rotated, and the pre-rotation isn't properly defined in the converter. And if I were to just change the bone data, it would actually mess some things up, which I had experimented with. So anyway, so that's my rigid game object to change position, scale, and rotation. And I've got this whole system of animations, clips, and skeletons being loaded in. In my update, this is all my keyboard control stuff, but in my update here, I update my animation manager to process all of the, basically to go do the interpolation in the clip. So each animation processes the animation and will end up, I don't show too much code here, but it basically will it'll interpolate between the two clips that the current time is between and figure out, what the result bone array is, and update it and push that to the skeleton and do the time looping stuff and with the speed and all that. And then here it updates every game object's world matrix, including the game object anim bones, which use their parent game objects to figure out their local world matrix, or to figure out their world matrix, so it does a multiplication there, which is important. And then the skeleton manager, each skeleton will actually set the bone orientation matrix of each game object anim. That is the kind of bone layout in the PCS tree, and that matrix is actually what gets pushed to the graphics card during the draw. So so it's a three-step process. You gotta do the interpolation through the clips, you gotta update the world matrix, and you have to do the the bone orientation stuff. Anyway, let me build this and run this and just show that this works. Okay, so this is pretty fast. So I have speed controls, so let me show that I can slow down this animation on the humanoid here and speed it up. If I slow it down below 0, it'll start to go reverse. So I can kind of just dynamically change the speed. So let's look at the teddy bear first. It's moving a little quick, so let's slow it down. This is the idle animation. I can switch it to the walking. And again, I can control the speed it up, slow it down, reverse. This one only had two kind of working animations that were okay from the FVX file. The other ones don't really do anything, it kind of just stands there. Then the humanoid has three. It's this punch one, the punch, the running, and the getting shot, I guess, is what it's called. Falls on the floor. I made this ground here. There's no physics collision. I just tried to kind of position the rigid game object in such a way that they were close to touching the ground. There's just some tweaking there. But yeah, so I have these controls for speeding up and slowing down the speed of the animations, and negative speed plays it in reverse. I don't have the controls for play and pause, but that would just be setting the speed to 0. Yeah, I guess that's it. I kind of enjoyed some of the dramatic angles I could get here on the run. It's pretty detailed with all the hands and all the fingers in the hands and everything. Oh, look at that. I actually got the speed to 0. That's lucky, I guess. But yeah, and then I have my Blin Fong lighting on each of these pyramids. So, although I'm not sure if the shadows are actually working correctly on here or not. They should be. But I have the blend fong lighting and normal mapping on this floor here. That's from my little extra from my research. But anyway, yeah. So with that, I can import animations and make skeletons, have them instance, display them. Oh yeah, I'm using one instance of the pyramid model to render all of these. I'm also using one instance uh, of the blend fong shader object, and one instance of the like kind of pyramid, whatever, one instance of the graphics object as well. So it's kind of efficient with that. The only thing that I have multiple of is the game objects, of course, which I need so they have their own instanced world matrices. But anyway, that's my demo. This should account for everything. The converter, oops. I'll upload this batch converter folder onto Perforce, and I'll include all of these clips and stuff in here, but if you want to run it, you can delete them and run this Python file. Anyway, alright, thanks for watching. Bye.